Welcome back to r/neighbors from hell, where people share stories about their crazy neighbors. And if you're new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our amazing community. And without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. The first one is titled, "Neighbor's cows repeatedly trespassed and destroyed my property. I made him pay." And ripe stars by him, I guess OP means the neighbor. Anyway, trespassing is never a fun thing to deal with, especially when it is cows that are trespassing on your property. And yes, cows were trespassing on my property. Let me explain a little bit. I inherited a property a couple of years ago from my grandparents. Although we check on it every few months, the property has been pretty vacant otherwise. We had planned to renovate and even do some construction work on the outside of the property, but we were busy getting everything ready and whatnot. Eventually, my husband and I were planning to move into the property. It was big, unique, and it was truly a blessing that we inherited it. It would have cost a fortune to buy a house/property like this one on the market. During the last couple of months, we were finally beginning to wrap up all of the work we were having done on the house. On top of that, we were also having asphalt around the property paved. However, a few visits ago, we noticed that the cows from the next door property were trespassing onto our yard. And by the way, ripe stars, I'm curious, is that even legally possible that an animal can trespass? Anyway, I know it's not really trespassing, and I don't blame the cows one bit. I love animals in fact, but these cows were starting to cause damage to our property. The property did have a barbed wire fence marking the property line, but it was a century old, so it was safe to say that some parts of the barbed wire fence were useless and non-existent. This had been happening a while and continued to happen when we made visits. The cows had caused damage to some of the newly made brick garden beds, dug up some of my beloved grandparents' decade-old rose bushes, and you could even see a path in the grass where they had been trampling all over the yard. I did not mind the cows, but I did not want them on my property. I had planned to talk to these neighbors about the cows, but I was thrown for a loop. The property next to us was actually owned by a company, but it was leased to someone else in order to raise and breed cattle. I wasn't sure that I had the means nor the money to fight against the company, but things got even worse shortly after finding this information out. We had started moving into the property for good. First was my dad and his dog. The dog had loved running around the property and enjoying the big spacious land. One night when my dad went to go call his dog in for the night, he was met with no response. Of course, this is enough to frighten any dog owner, but my dad especially loved his dog. Upon further investigation, he had found his dog laying in a small ditch in the background and he was seriously injured. Now, we obviously did not have enough information to prove anything, but the ditch the dog was in, which he was found, was covered in cow poop. On top of that, it was not too far off from where the grass had a path in it. Fortunately though, my dad's beloved dog survived without any further complications, but it was still a shocking experience. I decided to make some calls and see what I could do. I even got some advice from some friendly neighbors down the road. Even they had recalled with me how much my grandparents loved this property and how well they took care of it. I told them that I wanted to take care of it just as well as they did, and I did not want anything to happen to the cows, but I just did not know what else to do. Well, upon some advice I had gotten, I decided to call animal control. I was nervous because how could I prove that it was the cows that damaged the property? We were doing renovations and other work, however, it ended up working out for me, because when the animal control officer pulled up to our property, a small herd of cows were just crossing over the old and decaying barbed wire fence. For a second, I was almost scared that we would be told that it was our fault because our fence was so old. However, this turned out to not be the case. As a matter of fact, this whole ordeal ended up working out in our favor. I told the officer that I really did not want anything bad happening to the cows. I was pretty clueless when it came to this stuff and I was almost afraid they would euthanize them or something. He assured me that would not happen and the cows would be safe. The cows were taken away and the company that leased the property was held responsible for the damages that the cows had caused. I actually learned that anyone who owns cows or livestock were responsible for not letting them run at large and into other people's property. They could have all the cows in the world, but they had to make sure that they had a fence or property equipment and land to make sure they don't wander off beyond means. Besides this, the company that owned the property was ordered to pay for the damages the cows had caused to our property. As I am writing in this forum right now, there is a brand new fence being built between our property and the one next door, and we are not the ones paying for it. And yeah, Ripe Stars, aside from the sad situation that OP's dog, or rather OP's dad's dog, got injured, I would say aside from that it is a pretty good outcome for the story. But then again, I am very glad that the dog did not die or anything and recovered from the injuries. Either way, if you enjoy the stories about crazy neighbors, then I would really appreciate it if you could like the video, because recently we pretty much always reach over 1000 likes on each video, and I just cannot say how grateful I am for your daily support. Thank you so much. And the next one is a story from r/askreddit, because last time you enjoyed these so much. The topic is basically creepy true stories. It starts like this. Many years ago, myself and two of my best friends decided to go for a day of mountain biking at Snowshoe in southern West Virginia. And I hope this is right, by the way, please correct me if I'm wrong with that. Now, this was way before the days of GPS, so we were kind of doing this by some half-assed directions and an old map, but the point is we got very lost. Sometime along the way, we ended up in this very tiny little town and we figured we would ask for directions. It was absolutely deserted. I'm talking not a single soul to be seen anywhere. We parked the truck and split up looking for anyone. Now, this was at around 9 to 10 AM, so not exactly the ass crack of dawn, mind you. We went into the post office, nobody. We went into the only bar in town, which was unlocked, unattended with music playing, but not a single soul present. We went business to business to business and walked the streets, and after about 25 minutes finally found one old guy who just seemed to appear out of nowhere in the middle of town walking alone. The first question we asked him was not even for directions. It was, "Where the hell is everyone?" To which he replied, "Well, I guess folks around here don't get up much till around noon." We asked him for directions to Snowshoe and he pointed to the road we came in on and said to go that way about 10 miles and make a right and we will find the interstate. We left quickly. We all had a very bad sense of unease about the whole thing. As we left, we were about 5 miles down the road and hit a lady dressed up in a state road uniform standing in the middle of a very long straightaway holding a stop sign. When we approached her, she turned the sign from slow to stop. We asked what was going on. She stated that there was road construction ahead. We told her of what just happened and she just kind of laughed and said those people in that town are kind of strange, but let it slide. So we actually started talking to her, waiting for a line of traffic to come by from the opposite direction. We actually ended up talking to her for about 45 minutes to an hour, just talking about stuff. Kind of got lost in the conversation. Not one single vehicle ever approached from the other direction or behind us. Eventually she said, "Well, I guess it is clear now and you all can go ahead," and slowly turned the sign from stop to slow and motioned for us to go ahead. We went straight ahead, the only direction you could possibly go for the next 30 some odd miles, and did not see any signs of construction, state road workers or maintenance going on at all. She had no vehicle. We figured she was a flag woman dropped off by some crew up ahead. After the encounter with the town and this woman, we had enough and called it quits. We turned on the interstate as soon as we found it and headed north and home. Every single one of us still remembers this whole encounter in vivid detail to this day. I asked my friend about it actually about 3 months ago at this wedding, and it still freaks him out to no end. And guys, if you ever had any creepy true experiences in your own life, then please feel free to share them in the comments or on r/ripe stories on Reddit. Thank you very much in advance. And the next one is another story from the same Ask Reddit thread. This took place when I was 13, no one in my family will acknowledge it happened, the only ones who would cave to my "but great-grandpa" have unfortunately passed away. No one will give me the time of day about it. My family has a cabin in Cook's Forest, Clarion, PA. Cabin was built by my great-granddad and has expanded a bit over the years, but has a little nice nook at the bottom of a long dirt road off the main road and down a hill. There are a few other properties around, but most are up and off on the dirt road, only one is down the hill and only halfway at that. It's not modern by any means, no internet cell service, the TV still has dials you have to twist to get to watch a DVD, it's very rustic and I love it. The property halfway down the hill is visible from any part at the front of our cabin, which is where the kitchen window, parking, porch and fire pit are. For as long as anyone can remember, it's been this abandoned lot that had what was once a cabin with a concrete basement. The cabin was built on a hill, so half the basement stuck out from the hill, but the remaining part was crumbling. It also was at the fork where we would ride our ATVs to get to the fire break, so even though it could have been creepy, it was a very common and familiar sight. Until one Memorial Day, which is when we opened the cabin after the winter, and a large part of our family would go to the cabin for the long weekend to spend time together. Everyone would usually get there through the early evening and then all come together for my great-granddad's dinosaur pancakes for breakfast, the highlight of my single-digit to preteen years. So I wake up expecting to smell pancakes and hear chatter from the older members of my family down in the kitchen, but nothing. I assume I've gotten up too early and go downstairs to use the bathroom and then go back to sleep. Looking back, the whole upstairs was just mattresses with an aisle between them. I should have noticed that most beds were empty. I get downstairs and see all the adults outside, and I go out to say good morning and demand my T-Rex pancakes. I walk out and see all my family adults in a kind of semi-circle facing an older man and a woman I did not recognize. I assume this is some adult situation, so I go back inside to wake up my cousins, but not before looking at the clock on the microwave and seeing that it is about 3 p.m. Now, I love the cabin, I would doodle the cabin itself, four-wheelers and the area around it for months leading up to Memorial Day weekend. I was usually up really early because I was so damn excited to just be there. Sleeping until 3 p.m. was not in any way normal. I wake up my cousins and by the time they all mosey downstairs, the adults are all back inside. Everyone is pretty silent, but then great-grandpa fires up the stove and gets us kids excited for dino cakes, so all seems normal. I was there with one of my aunts and my uncle, no parents, and my aunt is pretty close in age to me and was for sure the cool aunt. So when I saw her pale as a sheet, I went to ask what is wrong. She took me outside and pointed at the aforementioned abandoned and crumbling property. In its place was a sprawling cabin mansion, parking area full of SUVs and the coolest looking four-wheelers my 13-year-old self had ever seen. Aunt tells me that the owners had come to say hi, the couple I saw earlier, and invited us over to hang out with their nieces and nephews as they were having a Memorial Day get-together just like us. Me having zero thoughts besides awesome four-wheelers, almost ran to the house, but my aunt caught me and rather forcefully reminded me of my dino cakes. I conceded and ran back inside to an atmosphere so thick with tension that even my undeveloped brain, thanks Dr. Mom, could detect it. The oldest of the adults were acting normal and playing around with us kids, but something was very off. I finally asked what was up, and my aunt bonked me in the head and asked if I had seen that massive cabin mansion last night, last year, and the year before. We had come to the cabin every few weeks until December. Did I see any construction? Well, no, but they invited us over, and they have cool four-wheelers, Aunt Beth, come on. A resounding no from multiple family members made my emotional girl self almost flee and cry until my grandpa, a hulk of a man, got down to my level and explained that he felt there was something weird going on. He said the couple did not act right. I assumed that meant they were rude and that we should just keep to ourselves this weekend. I agreed and we went about our day, all adults keeping us occupied with activities either inside or behind the cabin. We get ready for bed when I see my great-granddad, World War II vet, who had the only bedroom on the first floor, loading 3 shotguns, handing one off to my grampy and the other to my uncle/cool aunt's husband. To my shock and awe, my Grammy pulls out a bedazzled Glock from her purse. I go to bed with images of my little Grammy taking down a bunch of bad guys with her shiny pistol. I wake up the next day to the smell of pancakes and the sound of adults chatting downstairs. I am sad because today is when we have to pack and leave, but things seem back to normal, so I am very glad. I run downstairs, note that the clock says 7:30, but ignore the weirdness and sit in front of a plate of dino cakes that I dig into while asking my aunt what time we have to leave. Leave? We don't leave until tomorrow. Wait, what day is it? It's Saturday. We just got here last night. I noticed just a bit of doubt in my aunt's eyes that I know something is up. And I run outside. The abandoned lot is back to its decrepit state. I resolve to brush it off and enjoy my ATV riding and forget about everything pretty quickly. It was not until I got back to school and was called to the main office where they asked why I was not at school on Monday. I told them that today was Monday, what are they talking about? But nope, it is Tuesday and my absence was unexplained despite several calls. I skipped school frequently, to my parents divorced, neither of which were at the cabin. So either my family played the trick of all tricks on me, or I am living in an alternate universe where I can sleep into the afternoon. Like I said, no one will even remotely entertain a conversation about this incident, so I am left telling my fellow Redditors about my family's conspiracy against me. The next one is from the same Ask Reddit thread and it starts like this. When my brother and I were 10 and 12 respectively, our family went on a hike through the cemetery and into the woods not far from our house. My brothers and I would explore these woods every day, even camped in them before, we knew it like the back of our hands. Anyway, as the family hits our usual spot by the creek halfway through, brother 1 and I said we would be back in a few, we wanted to wander off further up creek. So we did. We came across a very large hill we had never seen before. It was littered with what looked like someone's worldly possessions. As if they turned a house upside down, shook out the contents, took the house and left. There were tons of painted X's on the trees, showing someone intended to cut them down at some point. We poked around for a few when we thought we heard our mom hollering at us. So we turned tail and walked maybe 20 feet back down to the hill to where our parents were. The entire encounter was maybe 45 minutes long on our end. As soon as our mom saw us, we got the beating of a lifetime. We had actually been gone almost 4 hours. She never saw us walk up any hill and remembered seeing us meandering down the straight path by the creek, not turning up a hill that was 20 feet away. She and her husband and our brother combed the woods for over 4 hours, screaming our names, and could not find nor tail of us. We pleaded our case and even tried showing her the hill. Surely she was messing with us. So we stomped up to turn off for the hill and it was gone. Nowhere to be seen. For years we explored the woods determined to find that damn hill. We covered miles and miles of off-path woods. As we got older we mapped it out. To this day, that hill does not exist. We never found it again, never found the weird furniture, toys, clothes and other household items that were scattered across the hill. And we never met anyone in the area that had a clue about the hill. We probably just wandered way further than we meant to, but I always found it weird that we never found the hill again. And ripe stars, with this we have reached the end of the video. However, if you still cannot get enough of my content, then I would highly suggest to check out my endless binge watch playlist, which will soon show up in the left corner of the screen. In addition, I would really appreciate it if you could not only subscribe to the channel, but also turn on the bell notifications, which you can do by clicking on the little bell icon right next to the subscribe button. This will help my channel tremendously and this will make sure that you don't miss any of my videos. Furthermore, if you want to see additional ripe content that I don't post on YouTube, then I would suggest to head on over to patreon.com/ripeyoutube for more than 50 50 exclusive videos that you will not see anywhere else. Thank you so much for your amazing daily support, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.